What's up, everyone? This is Leon, and I am back with another quick and dirty paperback horror novel review. Tonight, we are taking a look at William W. Johnstone's Sandman. Just look at that stupid cover. That is very emblematic of zebra covers of the time. They did love their skeletons. This book was published by Zebra in 1988, and the first William W. Johnstone book I have ever read. I'd heard quite a lot about this guy. I know he engenders quite a lot of hate. I knew he was a kitchen sink kind of writer who cranked everything up to 11 and just had outlandish, ridiculous plots. Knew he could be a little rapey at times, that he had certain things that kind of kept cropping up in his work. He liked to throw in just a bunch of different types of monsters, werewolves, zombies, devils, a lot of devils. But this one, okay, I'm going to start by reading the synopsis, as usual. Paul Kelly had a very big temper for such a small boy. When he tired of his toys, he smashed them. When a dog or cat got in his way, he kicked them. And when other children told on him, he made sure they were very, very sorry. But that was nothing compared to what Paul discovered next, which was that if he didn't like certain people, he could make it so he'd never have to see them again. Ever. And no one would suspect such a little boy of such a horrible deed. No one would ever guess that killing could be much more fun than playing with dump trucks and sandboxes. Especially the way Paul did it. Now, that synopsis is a little misleading, I have to admit. When I read that, I got very excited. I'm a huge sucker for evil child stories. I love books about evil kids. And while this does concern an evil child, that synopsis is very doesn't even really scratch the surface of this thing. So getting a little more into the plot. I can't explain the whole plot to you because it's just ridiculous and it just goes everywhere. But I'll try my best. So the story opens up with the Kelly family. So we've got the dad, the mom. We've got 8-year-old Paul and his older sister, 10-year-old sister. And they're vacationing in the Bahamas. Now, Paul, we quickly learn, is a rotten little kid. He likes to cuss out his sister, tell her he wishes she was raped and murdered. As mentioned in the synopsis, he likes to torture animals. Just a bad seed, a bad kid. One night while on vacation, he sneaks out of the cottage in the middle of the night and kind of goes wandering around the beach. And he comes across these two mysterious figures, a couple of people who turn out to be voodoo priest and priestess who have been dead for quite a while but come back. And this voodoo priest and priestess who have their dialogue is written in the most atrocious dialect of what this author thinks, of I don't know, that like a Caribbean type of accent, but it's so cringeworthy. But anyway, the priest and priestess tell Paul that he conjured them up, that he brought them to him, and that he's not a little 8-year-old boy. In fact, he is the son of Satan, the Satan, the real Satan, son of the Dark One, capital D, capital O. And that he is just basically the embodiment of all that is evil, and that they are going to help him to kind of harness his powers, his evil powers, to take over the world. So they show him how to manipulate sand. He cuts himself and bleeds on the sand, and he can raise up these sand creatures to do his bidding. Also, probably maybe the coolest thing about this book, they tell him that he has a quote-unquote alter shape or alter form, basically an evil twin from hell who kind of can be conjured up when Paul wants him to. It kind of starts out as this sort of noxious green mist that kind of hovers next to Paul, and then out of the mist comes this wretched, diabolical monster who can go, and Paul will send that monster to go and rape and murder whoever he wants, basically. So Paul starts out by sending this altar form to brutally murder the honeymooning couple who are staying in the cottage next door to Paul's families, which introduces us afterwards to the woman, the dead woman's brother, who is a retired NYPD cop who comes out to the Bahamas to try to investigate and find out what happened to his sister. He teams up with a British inspector from the islands who knows all about these voodoo priest and priestess and the things that are going on. He's basically the one who can give us all the exposition. And a lot of the dialogue in this book is basically just awful, stilted means of delivering exposition. So the NYPD cop and this British inspector, they decide that yes, it is this family that's responsible for this, and they follow the family back to their hometown in Arizona, a very wealthy town. We are repeatedly reminded, an affluent community in Arizona, and they kind of are watching Paul. They team up with the chief of police and a priest because this is a religious matter. This is a matter of good and evil. In Mr. Johnstone's world, there are no shades of gray. You're either a man of God or you're a disciple of Satan, and you must be destroyed. And they basically try to stop Paul, the 8-year-old boy, who's not really an 8-year-old boy. He's just in the body of an 8-year-old boy. He's actually the son of Satan, the embodiment of all that is evil. They try to stop him from, causing complete destruction and letting evil reign on earth. And it's a little, I think that's his plan. At one point in the book, it also mentions that one of Paul's missions is to impregnate his mother, but then it's kind of dropped and never brought up again. I don't know if Mr. Johnstone just forgot that he brought that plot point up, or maybe he thought that was a little too rapey even for him. But basically, and then there are just set pieces here and there. Crazy things happen. When they first get back to Arizona from the islands, Paul has this kind of breakdown. He goes nuts, and they have to sedate him and put him in the hospital. And one of Paul's classmates, a little girl, is in the next room. She had to go to the hospital for a skateboarding accident, and the poor girl. Paul sends this altar form to the girl. The altar form rapes the girl, and then ages her. Causes her to rapidly age until she's this wizened raisin of a little girl, drives the mother of the little girl completely crazy, and forces the mother to commit suicide by jumping out of the top story window of the hospital. Just one example of the crazy shenanigans that this Paul character does. All the while he's smiling, he's laughing, he loves it. And so that may sound fun, it would sound fun to me, but oddly, this book was quite boring. I found myself struggling to get back to it. The writing is quite banal, and I'm pretty forgiving of a lot of these 80s paperbacks. One of the saving graces, though, is if the writer is at least trying a little bit with the writing. If they're trying to be, inventive or descriptive with their set pieces and gore. Mr. Johnstone doesn't really he seems kind of like a one draft kind of writer. Thank God it is edited well, because back in the 80s, the one thing you could say about these, the publishers did hire copywriters, so there are not, grammatical mistakes and things like that. So, unlike today where a lot of, self-published books are rife with grammatical errors because there are no more editors, but the writing is quite dull. The plot is ridiculous, and I'm a teacher. I teach sixth grade English and drama, and one of the things that I love to do is have like a narrative unit and have these and see these students be creative and create stories and just see the wild things that they come up with. When I was reading this book, I was reminded of the kind of just ridiculous stuff that like a 12-year-old would come up with. It really does feel like Mr. Johnstone was channeling his inner 12-year-old boy when he was coming up with these stories. So I guess I give him props for that kind of creativity, but just the execution is sadly just not there. This book should have been a lot more fun than it ended up being. It was also a little disappointing to learn that this whole thing was basically a story of God versus Satan, and that this boy, why did he have to be the child of Satan? It's such a shop-worn, cliched thing. I wish he would have just been like just a regular evil kid who maybe learned how to manipulate sand creatures and use them to attack his enemies. To me that would have been cool, but the fact that he's the child of Satan being brought in there. So I don't know. One thing I never understood about kind of religious themed horror, unless it's done very well, is that it kind of lowers the stakes, because as soon as someone in this book, if they were a good person, as soon as they died, they just get whisked off to heaven. It's like, okay, well, I mean, it's not the worst case. Like, worst case scenario, I die, but I get to live in the afterlife forever. It's like, it kind of, like, it lowers the stakes a little bit, I feel like. But anyhow, so Sandman, this one, I mean, I did get to the end of it. It's not a short book. Like I said, it was kind of a chore to pick it up at times. But it was entertaining enough just to see, like, what ridiculous thing would come next. So I did finish it. I'm not going to honestly be in any hurry. I do have a few more Johnstone books, but they probably won't be rushing them to the top of my to-be-read pile anytime soon. But, it's interesting. It is cheesy. This is definitely more than most. I guess it could be considered a so bad it's good book, depending on your opinion. I do feel, and I saw, some people wonder, well, was Mr. Johnstone like trying to write a bad book? I can pretty confidently say I don't think so. I think Mr. Johnstone, and I guess that's part of the charm, I think he was trying to write an epic book of good versus evil, and the fact that it turned out the way it did, that's a little endearing. There's nothing worse, in my opinion, than books that are trying to be bad on purpose, or movies that are trying to be bad on purpose, or even worse. Like I can't. But if a movie or a book, tries really earnestly to be great and fails miserably, then it's fun. I think that's why Ed Wood has such enduring appeal. That's why people like movies like The Room. And I feel like Sandman sort of fits into that category. So if you're the kind of person who can't appreciate a so bad it's good book, and the books, I mean, it's not like a movie. A movie will take you like 80 minutes. A book, I mean, there's a little more time investment there. But if you enjoy that kind of thing, then I might recommend it. Otherwise, there are just so many books. I mean, there's so many better books from this period to read. It's really, I don't know if I can justify spending the time to read this kind of thing. But I'm glad I read it. I'm glad I got it out of my system. Now I know I have a point of reference for William W. Johnstone. So yeah, I can kind of lay that to rest for a while. So yeah, there you go. That's it. William W. Johnstone's Sandman. Hope you guys enjoyed that, and stick around. A little later this week, I'm going to be doing my next collection video, and I'll probably do maybe a mail video, because I've been getting some stuff in the mail. But until then, I will, have a nice night. I will see you later. Take care. Goodbye.